In this worksheet called Slicers, we're seeing a pivot table based on data in the Creating worksheet. And there are times when you're viewing a pivot table that you don't want to see all the field entries. For example, we may not want to see the sales data for some of our salespersons here. A standard way to not see them is to click the drop arrow for the field, and then in the filtered list below, uncheck the boxes next to the names we don't want to see. So we're going to uncheck the box for Emily Leone here, and a bit later, John Lucas, and there's one other one that we don't want to see for the moment. People may be in a certain region or a certain staff here for whatever reason. Click OK. And we're not seeing those names anymore. That's fine. The question comes up, though, at different times, which names are not here? And we don't necessarily know that by viewing the list unless we know these names really, really well. Similarly, with product, we could do the same kind of thing. We might not want to show all the products here, so we'll uncheck one of these. A variation on handling this kind of information is a feature called slicers. And using slicers will allow us to show not only what's visible, but what's not being shown. We get to it by way of the Insert tab. You can also go to Analyze. You'll see it here. Insert Slicer. Now, we are currently seeing the product field and the salesperson field. We're not using region and customer just now, but we might want to use them. And furthermore, Slicers has a role in letting us control the display of data from different regions, even if it's not being shown in the pivot table field list. So let's see how this plays out. It's going to be a busy screen here for a bit. We've got 4 separate slicers here, and you can resize these, make them smaller and all that sort of thing. Eventually, to make it more readable, you can make some of these multi-columns, that sort of thing. Right now, we're showing all the information for all the customers, all the regions. We don't even see those fields in the pivot table. The earlier changes we made to the salesperson field are being reflected right here. In other words, Emily Leone, we see here not being shown, John Lucas, Scott McCullough, and so on. This reminds us which entries are not being shown too, and we can make the list larger to see it completely this way too if we wish. Even though we're not using customer in the actual pivot table, maybe someone has asked us in our presentation here, could we show this information, this pivot table, with just the detail from Home Emporium and Home USA? If we click Home Emporium, we're only seeing the data from Home Emporium. If we also want to see the data from Home USA, we'll be holding down the Control key and click that. So we have the ability to select these in different ways. And again, the huge advantage we have now over using the arrows as we saw earlier on these fields is that we have a pretty complete picture of not only what is being shown, but what is not being shown. And also, when you have the time, you may want to spend a little bit of time redisplaying these. And when you do click one of the slicer entries, for example, this one, recognize that there's a Slicer Tools ribbon, and there are some options here. And for example, something you might want to do with salesperson is make it be 2 columns. That might make it easier to read if you make it wider and not so tall, that sort of thing. And there are other things you can do with them too, design-wise, spending a lot of time redesigning them if you wish. It's a great feature for giving you a better sense of what the pivot table is showing.